with many of these tokens now, we're seeing the ones that had real utility. And we have experience, Doug, you mentioned earlier, I think you mentioned something about our experience with this, which is in our private company holding Otoy, who built a render network for rendering computer graphics images based on a distributed network of GPUs, responsible for building this network. And we always said, wow, that's a great use case for blockchain, for artists and videographers, I guess. Yeah. People creating content in 3D, CG, computer graphics imagery, and using Otoy's render software to render their art, if you will, which requires extremely powerful graphics processors units, which are the chips that allow for graphics to happen. For anybody watching this, there's millions and millions of pixels on your screen that are operating at the same time. It's what we call a massively parallel system, which is now, because it's so valuable for complex computation, it's being used for things like artificial intelligence, machine learning. And so this network is really proving to be quite valuable. And the render token, which was issued as the means to be able to transact on this network, and originally was built on the Ethereum platform, and they just are moving towards the Solana platform this last fall, allows for a distributed network of graphics processors to exist and be accessed by people who want to do these various types of rendering or high performance computing jobs. It's a phenomenal idea that Otoy came up with.
Wait, but you said something important there, because we stumbled across this. Originally started as a rendering thing. Is the high performance computing, that could be a lot of different things, right? And was that something that was just recently sort of stumbled upon, or do you think that was an intended use all along? It doesn't really matter. It's all academic. It's just that the serendipity effect.
I honestly don't know if Otoy had that in the back of their mind ever. Originally, it was originally meant for, because they are a computer graphics rendering, streaming, creating software company. They built this to be able to have to gain access to build a network of GPUs, because GPUs are a hot commodity. They always knew it would be. Even I don't even think to the extent that it's become a really hot commodity, I don't know that they even envisioned that it is that the demand for these GPUs is as great as it has become, or they didn't necessarily see it being as great as it has become, but it's making this network very valuable. I mean, the token itself is over $2 billion recently, almost $3 billion value just for the token itself, for the network. So it's a good valuation, and of course Otoy owns a significant portion of that network, those tokens. So it's a validation of the value of that network. And if you think of it, this is just scratching the surface. I mean, if these are, and to give some scale, I don't have the exact number, but if say there's 100,000 GPUs available on this network, this is on its way to millions and tens of millions potentially of GPUs, because theoretically, at some point, every GPU, and this is a progression that's happening, but every GPU that's out there, including one that's on my my iPhone here, could be potentially, for lack of a better term, rented on the network and used. And if I were to do that, my iPhone GPU is earning me rent, or I'm like a landlord. Or it's better than that. It's like Airbnb for GPUs. I'm going to throw my GPU out on the Airbnb. The render network is Airbnb for GPUs.
And what investing show would be complete without an Airbnb metaphor? So
let's say it's a VRBO metaphor. Either way,
totally different.
Yeah. Okay.
It makes the point, though.
It makes the point. So we're super excited, because just one little aspect of our investment in that company is now, showing a value, trading regularly, worth well over $2 billion, over $2 billion, between 2 and 3 billion on any given day. It's volatile, but it's proven. The point I'll make with this, and then we'll end it, because we're not spend too much time on this, but it's proving value. It's proving utility. It's proving that there's a reason for these blockchain-based tokens to exist. I would argue that this is one of the best use cases I've seen. And that's what we always said, was that there would be real uses for this. Well, here's a live example.
And I think that if you have some sort of digital currency and cryptocurrency, if you will, and it survived the so-called crypto winter, and it's demonstrated an actual utility, you have to be feeling pretty good about its long-term prospects, as is the case with this one. So
absolutely. I mean, as much as these chips are required, and someday there will probably be other things that could be other forms of chip, if you will, to be available on a network like this. It's proving the point, and there's way more to this than I could possibly ever explain. It does. I mean, some of this gets very complicated. It's the geniuses at Otoy that put this together truly are that. They've thought about things like why it's important for an artist to have digital rights management and smart contracts that are attached to. So when there's an entry on the blockchain, it's not just that transaction took place. Oh, it's that transaction, and there's a contract associated with that transaction that proves that work is that artist's. So it's interesting stuff.
It's worth noting that this has been an investment. We could be guilty of talking our own book, so be aware we are invested in this, and this is something we've been invested in for a while. And it's also worth noting that it took a fair amount of foresight, because the GPUs have only started to become ubiquitous in the last few years. This is something they've been ramping up for years.
The problem is that they aren't ubiquitous. They're in great demand, and they're still pretty expensive. They haven't gone quite by Moore's law, and that the cost of them has cut in half every 18 months. It's that they're still expensive, and the reasons for that are myriad, and we could spend hours talking about it. But the fact is that it looks like you're always going to want more and more of these things, just like you wanted more and more CPUs, the central processor units, which are what traditionally silicon is built upon, or I should say the CPU is built upon silicon. When you traditionally talk about silicon, you're thinking CPUs. This is the graphics processor component of that. But nonetheless,
it seems fitting that in this day and age, no one's even listening to Moore's law. Even that law is being broken. So, post 2020 America.
To an extent.